Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how you can create a music visualizer by using MantaFlow. So let's get started. First let's delete everything and add a torus. Shift A, Mesh, Torus. Under Add Torus, set the minor radius to 0.05 and keyframe the scale. Now drag the timeline up and change it to Graph Editor. Click on this drop down and make sure everything is selected. Go to Key, Bake Sound to F-Curves, and then locate the folder where you have your sound. You can also use videos for that. If you use a video, Blender will just extract the sound. So now let's set the end frame to wherever the X is here. Now let's drag up the timeline and set it to 228 in my case. Now we can close this again, and if we play the animation we now have something like this. Now let's go to Object and Quick Effects, Quick Smoke. Go into Top View and make sure that the torus does not touch the borders of the domain. Select the torus and go to Physics Properties and make it Fire and Smoke. Now select the domain and multiply the resolution divisions by 8. Now check Adaptive Domain and Dissolve. Also check Noise. Set the end of the cache to 228 as well, and set the type to all and check is resumable. Now let's save. I'm going to call it tutorial. So now let's hit bake. This is probably going to take a few minutes at least, so I'll skip that. After it's done baking, let's select the domain and go to shading. Now add a math node and set it to multiply. Duplicate it, set this value to 50 and connect the value to the emission strength. Oh, and by the way, let's go to rendered view. I'm going to use cycles, and now let's connect this value to the top value, and now we need 3 color ramps. So duplicate them, connect the color of this one in the top value and the color of this one in the bottom value. Now add a noise texture, this one. Connect the factor to the vector and drag this slider in like this. And also let's make the world transparent, I mean black. Now set the scale to 8 and the detail to 9.2. Let's add an attribute node. Set the name to heat and connect the factor to the last 2 color ramps. And now connect this one to the emission color. Now drag this slider in like this, make this one black, and now let's add another one and make it white, like this. And now for this one, let's drag it in and make it red, somewhere around here for example, and this one make it yellow. Now let's drag this one over here. I think that looks better. I think that looks good. And also let's set this to ease. Now let's set the density to 0. Now go to the outliner and hide the torus in the render. If you don't see this option here, you can go up here and enable it. Go back to layout mode, and now let's set up the camera. Shift A, camera, Ctrl-Alt-0 to go into camera view, and let's rotate it in the Z like this, and RXX to rotate it like this, and now GZZ to move it like this, for example. Make sure that the fire doesn't exceed the spawns here. I don't know how to say it in English. Now let's go to the render properties. I'm going to render at 128 samples and check the noise. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, you can use both options here, optics or open image denoise, but I prefer optics. And if you don't have one, you can use open image denoise. Now let's go to rendered view, and under color management, go to view transform and set it to standard and the look to high contrast. Exposure to -1, and I think it's a little too red now, so let's go to shading and change that. Select the domain and make it more orange like this. Now under the output properties, select a folder. I already created one for that. And now let's give it a name. I'm going to call it rendered images. If you put an underscore after the file name, Blender is going to automatically assign numbers to the frames. Hit accept. For the file format, I'm going to use JPEG. I prefer JPEG over PNG because PNG has a much larger file size. One downside about JPEG though is that you can't render transparent backgrounds, for example. Now, unlike in my other tutorials, I'm not going to compile the images into a video in Blender because we still need to add the sound, and that doesn't work properly in Blender for some reason. So I'm going to use the free version of DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to put a link to that in the description. So now let's have off the file location, press Ctrl-C and open DaVinci Resolve. This is going to take a couple of seconds. Now click on Untitled Project or New Project and go to Media. Now go to the folder where you have your rendered images and drag the entire folder in here. Now as you can see, we have the entire animation in here. Now go back to the Explorer and also drag in the recording that you want to use, or the sound. Now drag it down here and go to Cut. Open the Explorer again and select the sound that you want to use. First drag the sound in here and then the rendered images so that they are on top. As you can see, this is not aligned properly, so with the animation selected, click here and go to speed and let's adjust this so that it roughly matches like this. I just turned on the sound recorder for the screen so you can hear the sound. Now let's go back to frame 1 and press play. Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how you can create the animation. I think this is good. To render the animation you need to go to Deliver and select a folder. I'm going to use the same one where I saved the images. Let's call it rendered animation. And press save. Select the file format. I recommend that you use MP4. Set the frame rate to 30. Now click on Add to Render Queue and click on Render All. Now you can close Resolve. You can either save this or not. I'm not going to save it because I don't need it. So that's it with the tutorial. I hope you liked it and please let me know what I should do next. I'll see you next time.